Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what?
Did you hear about those birds in Nevada and California that were flying over the solar panels and spontaneously combusting?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, then they counted those deaths as COVID cases.
Really?
Hello, this is Karen.
And this is Kevin.
And this is Right From Us. Okay, only one part of that story is true.
Well, that figures. That sounds
wouldn't
sort
be
of like
surprised.
what's happening.
I know. But there really are some exploding birds on solar farms, not a myth after all. Another part of that Green Deal that they are trying to pass, or did they pass it? Is a huge solar farm that they out on the border of California and Nevada, thousands of acres of concave mirrors that magnify the sun toward 3 towers, heat up the liquid in there and turn turbines. But they weren't anticipating that there would be hundreds and thousands of what they call flamers. Because when the birds fly through, if they survive the windmills, then they hit that magnifying sun, explode in flames, and down they go. Bird guts all over the mirrors. So that takes up some cleaning.
Yeah, Louis Gohmert was talking about that. He was talking about the birds that were spontaneously combusting.
I mean, it's not funny. It's actually pretty sad.
And he got mocked for it. He's a pretty. I think he's from Alabama, so he kind of has a little bit of a southern drawl. So he kind of sounds.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was getting mocked for talking about the birds that were exploding at the solar farms. But it turns out that it's true.
Come to find out, it's true.
Yeah, it's
I guess true. Because when they fly over them, it's like it's like a magnifying glass.
Because they
have
all these mirrors focusing up on this one vessel of water, I guess, to create steam.
Mm.
And the birds get in the track of
those beams, basically
of light, and they catch on fire.
Wow, that's sad though. Man,
you
that's
think
a lot of birds. I think they said like 100,000 a year is just they die from the wind turbines alone.
You think that the environmentalists would be all up in arms about that?
Right?
Yep. But nope, not a peep said about that.
Nope, because it's part of the Green New Deal, so obviously it's better.
Yeah, they're trying to get the Green New Deal. They're kind of doing a stealth way of getting that through. Is what they're doing.
Of course they are. They always do things stealthy.
This big ridiculous thing that they passed this week. Parts of it are the new Green Deal.
Of course, everything they do is stealthy because that's how they get their stuff through.
Yeah, did you hear
no one's paying attention?
They were doing something. They were trying to pass something like at 4:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
The other day.
Actually, they did. I think they did pass it. It was the first part of the infrastructure bill, wasn't it? Because they had to pass this bill in order to get the $3.3 trillion bill.
Yeah. There was something else, though, after that. I mean, that thing passed, that $1.2 trillion thing.
That's with the T, as in Tom, folks.
Infrastructure thing passed. But then there was something else they were trying to do the next day, like at 4:00 in the morning, and Ted Cruz was able to get it stopped. That's really about all I know about it.
How was he able to get it stopped? I mean, the Republicans are in the minority.
I know. I'm not sure. I'm not that well versed on what exactly happened, but something they were trying to do something at 4:00 in the morning, just like everything these Democrats try to do. Like Obamacare was passed like in the middle of the night,
or around a holiday or a holiday weekend or a Friday,
just wear down the senators and congressmen until they just say, we'll vote for it just to get out of here. Just
because I'm sick of talking about it and I want to go home and live my life, which is no way to act, but it is human.
Yeah.
But that's how they do it. So they're very sneaky and very persistent, and that's how they get a bunch of stuff passed. So that's all the more reason to get out and vote in 2022, please. Pay attention to who you're voting for.
Yes.
So we can try to stall this steamroller of the Democratic Party passing all this crazy stuff.
It's going to take a lot to recover from the damage that's been done just in, 8 months here.
Yep. And we still have, a little over 3 years to go.
Biden's like taking a steamroller to the country, essentially.
For sure. Yeah. All for the greater good, of course.
Yes.
Let's see here.
We had our city council that passed a resolution encouraging people to get the experimental as an act of love.
Yes, or commonly known as the jab. You're probably going to have to bleep that part out because that's what we got striked for the first time, was that very phrase.
Should we just test it and see what happens?
Well, I mean,
that's not
another strike, and
that's not. It's factual. It's experimental.
Oh, but there have been all kinds of people, like on Twitter, especially, get put in Twitter jail just because they're repeating headlines.
So I guess I should bleep that out, huh?
You probably should bleep that out. But if you want to watch the full uncensored version, you can always find us on Rumble. But yes, I know.
It's an act of love.
It's an act of love because, we love our neighbors as yourself.
Yeah, they always forget that. They always forget that last part, as yourself. If you loved yourself, would you really do that to yourself? People are saying, well, do it for your neighbors. Do it just to protect your fellow man. And they're quoting, Jesus, where he said, love your neighbors as yourself. They're forgetting about the as yourself part. As yourself, would you subject yourself to something that's experimental? Well, speaking of the jab,
the FDA is set to approve a third vaccine dose for the immunocompromised. Do we all think it's going to stop there? Of course not.
No, it's going to be one every year at least.
Sure, absolutely. The Food and Drug Administration is expected to authorize third shots of the COVID-19 vaccines for people with compromised immune systems this week, report said. The move would come amid a surge of cases due to the more contagious Delta variant. The FDA will amend the emergency use authorizations for the 2-dose Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, but not the one and done Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So, but, here's the thing. It's like, what are you guys worried about? It's for the immunocompromised. They're going to need it. We're trying to take care of them. We want them to take a third dose with love. But, you and I both know it's not going to stop at the immunocompromised. It's going to be pretty soon they're going to be demanding that you take a third dose.
And speaking of demanding, apparently in Los Angeles and San Francisco, I think it said August 20th, you're going to have proof of the vaccine to go into a restaurant. Is that correct?
Uh-huh. It is,
I think it's San Francisco.
Los Angeles to require vaccinations to buy groceries. No, this is not satire. This is true. The demand for COVID vaccinations, including various governmental and corporate requirements for the shots, finally may be getting out of hand. What do you mean finally? They've been out of hand for months. Not that it hasn't already caused controversy, economic injury, and more. Now, the Epoch Times is reporting a plan in Los Angeles to require vaccination proofs in order to go into restaurants, gyms, entertainment venues, and retail stores, including grocery retailers. The report said that would be more restrictive than New York City's plan to require that proof in restaurants and such because it excludes retail stores. So now, if you want food, you have to get the jab.
Hey, there's one good thing about this. It's sort of narrowing down our future travel destinations.
Very true.
So it's easier to make a decision as to where we're not going to be going on vacation. Like, for example, we're not going to go to Canada anymore.
No, I'm afraid not. Sorry, Canada, you're out.
You can't go there unless proof of vaccination. I don't even know if you can go there right now.
I don't know that you can go there right now either, honestly.
I seriously would never go there again after what they've done with the lockdowns and quarantines and that sort of thing. We're not going to be going to Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York for sure.
Nope.
So it's kind of narrowing down our future vacation plans.
We say that and you're like, oh yeah, big deal. But think of the bigger picture here, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel that way and they're going to avoid areas that require these ridiculous mandates. And so ultimately that's going to affect tourism. That's going to affect their bottom line. Yeah. I think ultimately it's going to come back and shoot them in the foot, but we'll see.
What about Australia?
Poor Australia. I feel so sorry for them. I really do.
It really is pretty sad. They've had apparently five deaths now, and they've got all these massive, oh bless you,
excuse me,
all these massive restrictions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. When did you hear that Biden is now wanting to restrict travel between states? You have to show your vaccine passport to travel from state to state.
Could you that? I don't know. Can that be possible? They're doing it in Canada. There's apparently you have to show your proof if you travel from province to province.
Yeah, but there's only how many provinces in Canada when there's,
I don't know,
48 states here in
6 or 7. I know. Could you imagine if you lived like up in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and could you go across the line all the time?
I mean, they're going to have like checkpoints at all these roads. Well, what about all these county roads and all that stuff that go from state to state? How could
they possibly do that?
I have no idea.
Mean, just think though, a few months ago, we were saying, how could they possibly do a lockdown? How could they possibly close your business? How could they possibly make you wear a mask all the time?
Yeah, it says a report that the Biden administration is discussing the possibility of vaccine passports for interstate travel drew outrage on Friday across social media. The Associated Press, noting President Biden has become more aggressive in his push for COVID-19 mandates, reported more severe measures such as mandating vaccines for interstate travel or changing how the federal government reimburses treatment for those who are unvaccinated and become ill with COVID-19 have been discussed by the White House. But the administration is worried that they would be too polarizing out this time. Gee. You think?
Well, why would they be worried about that? I mean, everything they do is polarizing, so why would they worry about that?
I think that's the ultimate goal for them, right?
Division of people.
But a couple of things I thought was interesting here. The federal government reimburses treatment for those who are unvaccinated and become ill with COVID-19. Now, I also read an article recently about how insurance companies are proposing not paying medical bills for the patients that end up in the hospital not vaccinated.
Well, I've also seen that employers are considering charging a surcharge to unvaccinated
I saw that too.
Employees.
How would that work? Like a yearly surcharge? Monthly? Daily?
Probably just tack onto their insurance premium or something like that. For the added cost of having the additional testing.
Potential burden of becoming sick if you get the vaccine.
Because some employers are asking unvaccinated employees to get tested every week. So to cover the cost of the testing, apparently.
And they're going to pass it on to the employee, make the employee pay that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Did you hear about the crazy war between Biden and DeSantis and the whole mask mandate thing in Florida?
Maybe.
How DeSantis is saying he's tried to, did he pass something or is he passing something about how he's forbidding schools to have?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if he passed it or he just said that he's not going to provide funding for schools that have a mask mandate in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. Governor DeSantis said that. Excuse me. And then Biden came back and said, well, we'll pay those schools that you don't fund.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Also, speaking of Florida, you know how the CDC was trying to make it seem like Florida, it's just, bombarded with all these COVID cases because of DeSantis, refusal to lock places down and make people wear masks and all that. But Florida came back to the CDC and was basically blasting them for posting false COVID numbers. And it says, the Florida Health Department is publicly slamming the Biden administration CDC for apparently posting incorrect COVID-19 numbers from within the state. The health department fired off a tweet Monday claiming the CDC combined multiple days of COVID-19 cases, creating a scary graph, misleading the public. What? Imagine. The CDC misleading the public? Say it isn't so. The department added that they expect a correction for the apparent error. Well, guess what? The CDC did issue a correction for that. So, once again, CDC amends Florida COVID-19 numbers after pushback from state officials. Let's see here.
Well, Dr. Birx said she didn't trust anything coming out of the CDC. Remember that about a year ago?
I don't think that we should have been trusting anything the CDC's been saying for a very long time. It's like they're just power. There's like drunk on power. It's just the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah. And then they also came out this week. The CDC came out and said that they're urging pregnant women to get the vaccine. Pregnant women.
That is evil. I'm sorry. But if you're going to really take a chance with your unborn child and take this experimental jab, I don't understand that at all. I don't understand why you would even be willing to take the risk. If you want to get it, fine, but, have your kid first.
It's the science, though, Karen.
Which,
they've been following the science, apparently.
Here's the thing. I want to see some of this science, okay? I am so tired of all these people saying, well, the science says.
Well, the science, that's what CNN, it's the stuff coming from CNN, right?
Well, apparently.
And MSNBC.
I want to see, what are these studies that they're quoting from? Where is the science? What is the science based off of? I want to see some of these studies. And even if I don't completely understand the verbiage in these studies, I have a dictionary. I can look up these words. I can figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's just talking about how the experts say this and the science says this. Okay, show me. Show me where the science says this. Where are the studies?
Yeah, really, where are the studies? I see more studies on the opposite side saying that, there's issues possibly.
I would be more apt to believe you if you backed up what you said, if you put your money where your mouth is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
I think a lot of people would.
Speaking of money, a lot of the experts that are pushing the experts in quotation marks.
I always say quotation marks.
Pushing the vaccine, there's a financial benefit to them. So is that something you would really want to trust if they're getting some kind of financial benefit from the vaccines?
It just doesn't make sense.
Dr. Fauci.
And just don't this blind willingness to follow something that's not. I don't understand the blind willingness to follow. And then people have the audacity to say, well, you're not very educated if you have doubts. What?
The people that have doubts are the ones that have educated themselves more about it.
Most vaccine hesitant group is also the most highly educated. That's an article in the WND.
And out of that is the PhDs. People with PhDs are actually the most hesitant.
Yes. So what does that tell you? Exactly. And you don't even have to have a PhD to be hesitant. Some of this is just common sense. Some of this, most of the madness that's out there right now makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense. And the stories change daily, and they can't show you the proof. They can't show you the science. There's all these inconsistencies, and it's like, why would you trust something that is just so blatantly flawed? I just don't understand that at all.
Yeah, for me, it's just there's so much conflicting information out there. I am just choosing to hold off at this point.
Yes, for sure.
So
maybe indefinitely.
Yeah, at this point and probably forever.
Because I know this is going to shock some people, but given the choice between getting the disease, the COVID, or getting the vaccine, I'm going to choose the disease. I know that may shock some people, but the statistics of recovering from this disease for someone in my age group and for my health, it's very, very high.
And really, people under the age of 65, they're healthy. It's like the death rate is so minimal. It's just almost non-existent. It's like 0.
So it makes no sense to get an experimental jab for something I have a very high probability of surviving. And consider this. All the people that are in the hospital right now with this Delta variant, all these people have become vaccinated and they're shedding this virus, and people that are vaccinated are also getting the virus. So,
and they're not even testing. When people go to the hospital, that's a question they ask. Are you vaccinated or unvaccinated, and they're not even testing the vaccinated people with this, faulty, flawed PCR test anyway. Can I say that?
I don't know.
The PCR test that they're using for this gives like up to 97% false positives. So
yeah, I know. I don't know. It just has never made any sense to me whatsoever, and it continues to not make any sense to me the more people try to push and threaten and bribe to get a vaccine for something that's just ultimately not that bad for most people. And COVID's never going away, by the way, guys. I mean, it's going to continue to mutate. It's going to continue to spit out a new strain every year, quite similar to the cold and flu. So we have got to learn to live with this. I think that government is trying to sell this as it's going to be eradicated like the smallpox. And this is nothing like the smallpox, this kind of virus. According to science, and we can link to a video from a doctor that spoke at a school board about mask mandates. He, it was Dr. Dan Stock, and he is a functional family medicine doctor specializing in immunology and inflammation. And he spoke to a school board in Noblesville, Indiana, and it's a must watch. You must watch it. It is very informative. But he talks about how this virus is, since it's transmitted from human to human, like cold and flus, it's never really going away. It's only just going to continue to mutate as years go by. So to think that we're going to have one magic vaccine that's going to just eradicate COVID is unrealistic, given the type of virus that it is.
Yeah, it's going to be just like the flu. Every year there's a new thing every year.
So the sooner we learn to deal with it and live with this, the better.
We need to start learning how to use those medications that are out there that are effective against the virus.
Yes, which unfortunately we can't name the medications. YouTube will take us down. However, if you're interested in getting some of these medications, which is sad to say it's almost like on the black market kind of situation, but the America Frontline Doctors, it's AmericanFrontlineDoctors.org. Go to their website and they have a button for COVID vaccine medications. And you can actually have a consultation with the doctor for $90. And that doctor will prescribe you some of these medications that have been proven effective if given early enough in the COVID, if you're symptomatic for COVID. Or even if you're not. Very effective.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, and it's just, I don't understand why we're not talking about this. I don't understand why it's not more widely available to people as opposed to just this one, just the vaccine, it's vaccine or nothing. And that's not.
Well, again, it's the money.
Well, it's
the money.
And I'm not a doctor, obviously. This is my opinion.
This is not not financial. This is not medical advice.
We're not giving you any medical advice.
This is just what we're doing. But if you are
curious to learn more about it, then I would encourage you to go to that website and look it up and maybe talk to one of these doctors and see. What do you got to lose, right?
Yeah, we were talking about Australia a minute ago. Who is this gal? She's the Australian chief health officer. Is telling people that you should not even talk to people.
Dr. Carrie Chant.
When you leave your house, if you see your neighbor at the grocery store, don't talk to them.
Do not come in contact with anyone who would pose a risk.
And they've had 5. I mean, how many millions of people live in Australia?
I cannot believe the Aussies are not.
They've had 5 deaths, which is almost 0.004% of the population. And they've got these crazy lockdowns and saying, the health minister is saying, or the chief health officer is saying, don't talk to anybody when you leave your house.
So basically you need to be locked into your house. And if you're not, they have police officers going around and patrolling the areas to make sure people stay in their houses. They're not allowed to leave their house any further than 3 miles radius. And if you go out to get your groceries or whatever, you're supposed to act like a zombie. Do not make eye contact. Do not talk to anyone. How is that living, guys? How is that life? Life is too short to be living in fear like this. We have got to come up with a better plan. And this is not it. This is not the plan. We can't do this indefinitely because, again, the COVID's not going away. So there's an Israeli scientist that says COVID-19 could be treated for under $1 a day. This drug that shall not be named. Can you flash the name of this drug on the screen?
Yeah. Which one are you on here?
It's on like one of the last ones. It's a drug used to fight parasites in third world countries, could help reduce the length of infection for people who contract coronavirus for less than $1 a day. This medication that shall not be named has been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration since 1987. The drug's discoveries were awarded the 2015 Nobel Prize in Medicine for its treatment for some big name disease. A disease caused by infection with a parasitic roundworm. This brings up an interesting point. So I was talking to someone at work the other day, and we were having a little bit of a heated discussion. The people I work with are very concerned that I have chosen not to get the jab and will not get the jab if it becomes mandatory. But they're out of love for me and not wanting to lose me. They're trying to understand where I'm coming from because, they live in a bubble and they have a hard time seeing outside this bubble that they live in. So I'm trying to explain this. And the person I'm talking to is truly confused as to why I would choose a vaccine, an experimental vaccine, over a drug that's been approved since 1987. No,
you said that backwards. Why you would choose a drug over a vaccine?
Yeah. Sorry, I said that backwards.
Yeah.
And because she just didn't understand that. She truly just didn't understand
why
that
person would think that.
I don't understand why she wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I'm sorry. So let me get this straight. So an experimental jab that's been around for less than a year, that we have no idea what the long-term repercussions are at this point in time, versus a drug that's been around and approved by the FDA since 1987, and that's been proven over time to be effective against a variety of diseases.
Yeah, and against this virus.
Yes,
and there's doctors out there saying, we have the cure, we have the cure, we have the cure. And then they get shut down.
Yes. And then you can't talk about it. You get kicked off social media for even saying the name of this alternative drug. And it's like, I'm truly like speechless to think that we can't even discuss some alternatives here, because isn't the ultimate goal to prevent people from getting sick and going to the hospital?
Well,
but I don't think that's the ultimate goal here.
The answer to your question is the last part of that sentence right there.
For $1 a day, because it's too cheap. Yeah. Because you can't make money.
It's too cheap. This drug is too cheap.
Yeah.
And the drug companies aren't going to get rich off of it, essentially. And Dr. Fauci.
You guys, I'm sorry. That's evil. That is just downright blatant evil.
We're going through, some people are saying that we're going through a period of mass psychosis.
What's mass psychosis?
Mass psychosis is kind of like...
this is mass, M-A-S-S, not mask.
Mass, M-A-S-S, mass, like people are just really distracted from the truth. For example, like one example in this article that I was looking at was talking about back in, was it the 1700s, the Salem witch trials? It's like they were finding all these so-called witches. They were accusing all kinds of women of being witches. And it was just like a mass psychosis. And like a few years ago, we had the thing with the clowns. Everybody was scared of clowns.
Yeah, that's right. That's weird.
And then I think a few years after that everybody was afraid of the murder hornets. Remember that? Murder
which, hornets? By the way, I saw a story about those today. The first one was spotted in California for the season or something like that. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. But, for this COVID thing has just been dialed up to 11,
As far as the mass psychosis.
There's the majority, wouldn't you say? The majority, or a high number of people are just completely misled and believing something that's not even true.
Yes, I would say probably a little over half, I think, is what It's about what it is right now at this point in time. And again, it just goes to, believing everything you hear from these news sites that don't care about you and have no interest in saying the truth. Yeah. They're all about clicks. And the more clicks they get, the more money they make.
Yeah. And thinking that CNN and MSNBC and the fact checkers on Facebook and Twitter are science. That's not science. Those are journalists pushing a story, an agenda, basically,
Yes. In fact, I saw a news story.
Oh, what was that about Snopes that you said earlier today?
Yeah. A note from Snopes writers about co-founder's plagiarism. He plagiarized a bunch of stuff. Let's see. We, the writers of Snopes, feel it is incumbent upon us to clearly and publicly acknowledge that BuzzFeed has discovered incontrovertible evidence that the co-founder and CEO of Snopes, David Michelson, has written and published multiple articles which contain sentences taken from other sources without proper attribution. We strongly condemn these poor journalistic practices. I don't know about that.
Well, basically what he did is just copied and pasted from something else he saw.
Without giving the proper credit. That doesn't necessarily mean that what he wrote was incorrect. So I don't know that that's really anything to write home about.
Well, if he's copying and pasting from some other fact checker, then probably is incorrect.
But that brings up an interesting point. He's copying and pasting from what sources? Sources that he agrees with?
Yeah.
In order to make sure that he's fact checking in their favor.
When he wants to fact check a story, he just Googles it and sees somebody else's fact check, and then just copies and pastes it and puts on Snopes.
See, which is all the more reason why I continuously say, and why I will continue to say that that's why it's so important to look at all sides of an issue. Don't just take what CNN says as gospel truth or what Fox News says as gospel truth. Get information from all sources and then make up your own mind. That's why it's called informed consent.
Yeah.
That's why it's called that, because you are informed, which means you know everything about that issue, not just what one person says.
Oh, wow. This was just yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this goes kind of back to your mass psychosis, where it's like people are just so willing to believe what they've been told without taking the time to really think about it, and look at it, especially when it so personally affects your life. I don't understand people that just don't take the time to make the right decision for your life and your family. And you just take what someone tells you as gospel truth. Yeah. It makes no sense to me.
And another thing we've got going on here is we've got people that have had the jab that don't want to admit that they're wrong.
I really think that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
I really do.
So they're trying to
so now they're
shame other people to get it too, just so that they don't feel as bad,
right?
Because they kind of in the back of their mind think that they might be wrong, but they don't want to admit that they're wrong. They, for getting the
and shot. Then get this continues to get even more and more just crazy and insane. Department of Homeland Security released an advisory summarizing the current terrorism threat and mentioned grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions as potential threats. In other words, DHS suggests opposition to COVID-19 restrictions could make someone a domestic terrorism threat. So if you dare to question the big guy, the guys in charge, you could be labeled a domestic terrorist.
Well, last week they said that...
What?
Yeah. Yeah, somewhere last week I read that they were trying to make disagreeing with the accepted science, in quotation marks, that would be a hate crime. If you disagreed with what Dr. Fauci came out with, you could be guilty of a hate crime. I even hesitate to call him doctor.
I don't know,
Is he actually a medical doctor?
Oh, I'm sure he probably is. But I don't know. It just, America, land of the free, right? Whatever happened to that? Guys, if we are not able to freely speak, we are doomed. We are so doomed. we're going to become a nation. We're going to become a third world nation, just like China, where they go out and they shoot people for disagreeing with the almighty government. We can't even have a discussion anymore without people just absolutely going crazy. It disturbs me to see where we're going in this country. It really does. Did you see about those Antifa thugs that were attacking the people in California who were protesting or trying to promote Gavin Newsom's recall? They're out there physically attacking people.
I saw the story. I'm trying not to watch those videos. It's just so disturbing.
It's so disturbing.
It's like, what?
But here's what's more disturbing. They're not being stopped.
Yeah.
They're just being allowed to go out there and just beat people up.
Yeah. It's like when the police, if you see a group of people in riot gear, I guess what are the police going to do? They're probably, the Antifa guys or the Antifa thugs are more well equipped than the police in many cases.
I do not blame the police one bit. Why? Why would they risk their lives to get involved in an altercation for people that want to defund them and always trash talk them and don't respect them?
These
Why?
Guys, they have riot gear on. They have helmets.
Yeah, they come fully
shields.
prepared to just cause as much destruction as possible. But people are allowing this to happen.
What people?
Well, like just common citizens, I guess.
Well, what's the common citizen supposed to do?
I don't know. What would you do in that case?
What are you going to show up in riot gear too and go after them? No, what are you going to do?
I don't know. You got to try to stop this whole defunding police jazz.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's what's ultimately making the whole thing crumble.
Yeah.
No one can stop them because, that's what the police are for. The police are the enforcers. But you're going to constantly berate the police and take their funding away and they don't have any motivation to protect the people because the people have turned on them. I don't blame them for stepping back and go, okay, you're on your own.
Yeah, but it's the Republicans that were defunding the police, right?
Yeah, can you believe that? And then people freaking believe that.
Yeah, it's like some people believe everything they see on TV.
Well, it's just like some people that get on the internet, they believe everything they read on the internet too.
Yeah.
People are so gullible. I have no patience. Yeah. I have zero patience.
Yeah, you got to question everything you see. Especially if you see it on the internet or on TV, you just got to question it.
Of course. Because everything you see has every piece of news that you see, every piece of story on the internet posted, there's always an agenda. There's always a slant.
Yeah.
Figure out what that slant is and then find out the opposing opinion on it and then come to your own conclusion.
And a lot of times just look at who's making the money off of things.
Right. Follow the money. It's always a good mantra. It kind of
explains a lot. Okay, we had this in Nebraska. Was it Nebraska? They had a flash flood. Did you see this?
No.
Omaha, Nebraska, they had a flash flood. It was on the 9th. So, this week.
Okay, wait a minute.
These people got trapped in an elevator on the bottom floor. So the elevator was filling up with water.
Time out. First of all, where was this?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, and where, what happened? Did a dam break or what happened?
It was just a flash flood in the city, I think. And these people got on an elevator and it went down to the bottom floor, which was flooded.
Can you imagine?
So they were trapped.
Can you imagine being on an elevator and then you go down to the bottom floor and yes, you're going down, the water comes up?
Yeah. So what would you do in that case?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what they do.
I don't know. They were just like, with the water up to here, basically.
Wow. That would be scary.
I think most elevators have like a trap door in the top. So you could escape if you ever had to, but.
Is that what they did? What does the article say?
I don't know.
Wow. That's insane.
I think the water finally receded, but.
That is insane. That gives me goosebumps. I'm not a big water person anyway because I'm not a very strong swimmer. So anything like that just, gosh. I used to,
before I learned how to swim, when we would go over a bridge in our family car, I would always kind of get a little bit nervous.
Well, yeah.
Because I would think, what would happen if the bridge went out or something?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everybody thinks that when they're going over a bridge. Yeah. What's that? Like that one bridge? We went camping. We took a wrong turn. We passed our turnoff when we were going camping this couple of weeks ago, and we almost ended up in Arkansas.
We almost went all the way to Arkansas.
But we went over this bridge that was like kind of narrow.
It's that bridge. Well, I guess I can't say where, but it's a bridge down there, and it's pretty narrow, and it's really the way it's constructed. You kind of go like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It kind of gives you the willies a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about this inflation problem here that we're heading toward? Nearly 80% of Americans blame Biden for inflation surge. I mean, duh. As many bills as he's ramming through and executive orders that he's signing, all the money that he's spending, like he's like a kid in a candy store, just out of control with this whole spending thing.
Well, that, and then also Republicans signed on to the bill and passed it.
Wow.
And our Rory Blunt here in Missouri.
Yes, I know.
Signed on to it.
Why? Dude. And I heard that Nick Reed was saying too, one of the reasons why he thought that he went ahead and did that is because he's not planning on running again. So basically his true colors are coming out and he's like, fine, I'm going to go ahead and pass it because this is what I think should happen.
Did he just...
That was his theory anyway.
Pass it? Did he sign on to it just because, I mean, there was really nothing much that the Republicans could do because the Democrats had the votes.
Well, yeah, that's kind of Nick's point. I mean, it's like he just signed it because what does he care? He's not running for office anymore.
Yeah.
The vast majority of Americans say surging grocery and household good prices are causing them financial hardship, and nearly 80% blame the Biden administration's economic policies, a new poll says. About 70% of Americans say the national economy is in bad shape, and the majority, 86%, are concerned about inflation, according to the Fox News poll released Wednesday. Of those polled, 86% blame the COVID-19 pandemic for increasing prices, and 79% blame the Biden administration's economic policies. What do you think about 86% blame the COVID-19 pandemic for increasing prices? Well, I guess I could kind of see that.
It is a factor for sure because of all the production that was shut down.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's that chip manufacturer. I don't even know where it was, Singapore or someplace like that I don't know if they've even still gotten back up to full capacity. It's affecting cars. It's affecting, all kinds of things, coffee makers and all kinds of things because there's a chip shortage.
Which, I mean, there's still a huge car shortage, right? Yeah. I mean, I haven't really noticed any car lots lately.
Used cars are up 45%.
Wow.
Yeah, and they say that somewhere I read that essentially every family, the effect of the inflation is going to be $3,000 a year. So basically just look at your paycheck and just subtract $3,000 from it.
Wow.
So that's the effect of the inflation this year.
Wow. That's pretty sickening.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. For the average family.
Mm-hmm. But, all these policies are meant to help the average family.
Yeah, all these things that they do to try to help the poor and the average middle class usually end up hurting the poor and the middle class. Okay, we're getting up there on time.
Yeah. Walmart. Our son works at Walmart, and at first we were noticing the employees wearing masks again, and our son confirmed that yes, Walmart was making them wear masks
again. That's a mandatory thing that they installed implemented this week.
Feel sorry for them, but our son, he's actually okay with wearing a mask. We were talking about this earlier when we went through the drive-thru from some Chinese place, and the guy that waited on us was super rude. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me. He was probably having a bad day.
He looked like the owner or
I don't
something
know.
to me.
He was probably there. He's probably stressed. He's probably short-handed. It's been a long day for him. I'm sure.
Other employees there.
I don't care. There's many reasons why someone could be rude to you. I don't take it personally, but that's one advantage of wearing a mask is you don't have to pretend to be nice. You don't have to pretend to be, put on a fake smile.
Yeah, if you smile, people can't tell you're smiling anyway. So,
so in some ways, that might be kind of good.
Yeah.
But then speaking of Walmart, as worker shortages continue, Walmart gives out bonuses to stop employees from quitting. That's how bad it is. So, yeah, it looks like, what were the unemployment numbers? Did you hear? if they were going up or down or getting any better.
I
was kind of curious about that because it seems like it doesn't seem to be getting any better at this point in time because employers are still just desperate for people. Can you imagine being a business owner right now? How stressful that has to be.
You got shut down last year, and then now you're trying to get back in business, and you can't even hire employees.
Yes.
So
that's insane. I can't imagine. They're probably hanging on by their fingernails. It would be so stressful.
If you own real estate and you got somebody that's not paying, you can't evict them to get somebody in there that's paying. So
right. All right. Are you ready to get to just some questions?
Questions?
Yeah, let's do questions. Yay. We need to have like a little segue, a little jingle for our question section. By the way, if you guys ever have any questions for us, feel free to put them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them next podcast within reason, obviously. All right. So this is from the Table Topics Cube. This is not sponsored, but tabletopics.com have a bunch of different attractive glass cubes that you can put out on your coffee table and pull out these questions when people come over to kind of to promote a conversation.
Yeah, we can never think of what to talk about after we say, hey, it's been pretty hot outside. And how's your grass doing this year?
Yeah.
And after that, it's like, we just sit around looking at each other.
Exactly. Well, I got a mosquito bite last week. Speaking of bugs, have we had any June bugs this year? I don't think there was any June bugs this year. I usually get thumped in the head a couple of times by June bugs, and I don't remember there being a June bug season this year.
June bugs come out in July.
In July, but I do not remember that. And someone I worked with said it might be something to do with the increased crickets this year.
I wonder if it was because of the cicadas.
The cicadas, that's what it was. The cicadas. She said it was an increase in the cicadas, so that's why we didn't have any June bugs this year.
That is a good observation. I didn't even notice there wasn't any June bugs this year.
Isn't that crazy? Because I always dread that part of the summer. It's usually about a 2-week period when you have June bugs, and they're the stupidest bugs. I mean, they're flying blind. They're bumping into things, usually my head when I'm outside, and or then you're buzzing by your ear, and you're just like, oh my gosh. So I don't know. He's Googling that right now, but I don't know if you guys, do you guys have anything like that in where you live? There's just a period of time when you have certain insects come out
we have June bugs and then those cicadas, and I just don't even pay attention to the cicadas. They make this really obnoxious buzzing sound.
Yes. And they're
loud
I don't
even pay attention to it. And I was making a video out of the camper the other day, and I didn't even notice that the cicadas were going zzz,
Yeah.
And then until I started editing the video, it's like, wait a minute, I can't even hear myself over the cicadas. Yeah. So we got the June bugs and cicadas.
Yeah, they're pretty loud.
Isn't any other irritating?
Yeah, well, we kind of solved this problem by cutting our trees back, but we used to get these really annoying little worms every fall. They'd fall off the trees and come into the house through the gutters and stuff. But ever since we cut the trees back and the limbs no longer overhang the house, we don't really have that problem anymore. Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else that's kind of specific to our area?
What were they called? Those bugs that we had that bag outside. Remember we had that bag?
Oh gosh. Some other kind of beetle, I believe.
Yeah, Japanese beetle or something.
That's what it was. It was Japanese beetle. Yeah. Oh my gosh, is that racist for saying that?
Oh.
I apologize to any Japanese people out there.
Asian, what can you say?
But that's what they're called. They're called Japanese bugs. I don't know why. Maybe they come from Japan. But we some years, they're not every year, thank goodness, but some years they get so bad and they eat your trees, right? And so you can hang these bags up that attract them, and you can trap them in this bag. And by the end of the day, the bag's just stuffed.
We had a bag. We had one of those traps one time, and my neighbor got mad at us because he said that those attract the beetles.
Which, I mean, he's probably right. Because, I mean, it's made to attract them, but you're kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Because if you don't try to control them, they get out of control.
I was just Googling what happened to the June bugs this year, and I came up with this article that's talking about where have all the insects gone? And it's saying that generally there's fewer insects. And, I'm not reading it all the way through here, but
I wonder why.
I'm sure they're going to start talking about global warming causing the insects.
I'm sure that's coming. But yeah, and then I remember years when we'd have a bunch of grasshoppers. Do you remember that? Like you'd walk outside and there would be like just grasshoppers just jumping on you.
In the 70s, we had those like droughts in the 70s, and then there was just like
they were
clouds of grasshoppers.
I remember that too, like seeing clouds of grasshoppers. That was bizarre. Like you would just look out across the grass and you would just see them jumping in the grass.
So I guess the moral of the story in conclusion is this stuff just goes in cycles, just like everything else. It's
just
not
like every
warming,
other kind of weather.
It's not climate change. It's just cycles.
It's just cyclical.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry to go off on that little thing.
That was my fault. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I was just I was thinking about that today. Okay. So questions. So what would you like your life to be like in 10 years? So in 10 years, you'll be close to 70. Is that okay if I say your age? You can bleep it out if you want to. Yeah. I will be close to retirement age. So I'm looking forward to retiring in 10 years. That's really what would you like your life to be like in 10 years? Well, in 10 years, I'll retire, and I'm hoping that we can do a little bit more traveling, cross-country camping, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll have to have our vaccination passports, though, to get
think about
states.
That for a second. What is it going to look like in 10 years, the country? Okay. Seriously, think about that for a second.
We'll have to.
What's your prediction?
We'll have to forge some vaccination passports. That's a thing now. Apparently, people are.
Actually, side note, I saw an article today I read a lot of news articles if you can't tell. But I saw an article today of two guys that got in serious trouble for forging their vaccination passports to go to Hawaii. So they got in big, huge trouble. But okay, this will be kind of interesting. This will be like an audio time capsule. What are your predictions? What is this country going to look like in 10 years? What do you think? Do you think we're going to be more totalitarianism or more?
Well, in 3 years, President Trump will be back, and he's going to fix all this stuff.
I hope not. I really hope. I want a right president, but I don't want Trump. I want DeSantis or somebody.
Hopefully, this is kind of like a pendulum. Things swing back and forth.
Yeah, that's true.
And right now, things just seem like they're really going down the tubes. We got these totalitarian Democrats that are just really just destroying the country. So hopefully people will wake up and vote these people out and get some. And
it's been like this in years past, by the way.
That are in favor of liberty.
There have been bad times in past as well.
Yeah.
But
there's always going to be evil politicians.
For sure.
But hopefully, and I'm praying that we'll have more liberty-minded politicians in the future.
Well, I think you kind of hit it on the head. I think we should do a lot of praying for this country to heal and get back on track.
Yeah. So what would I like my life to be in 10 years? Well, right now it's pretty awesome.
You have a pretty sweet life.
I have a pretty sweet life. I'm planning on retiring from just my regular job.
In a few years.
Yeah. Probably about 3 years.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that'll take a while to kind of
wind down
there. So
yeah.
But I'm going to do more things that I've always wanted to do, like record music and work on electronics and building guitar amplifiers and things like
Going camping.
Yeah. And traveling. Traveling for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we got that.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to try really hard to do vlogs and things like that when we go travel and document our travels around the country. I think that'll be really fun.
For sure.
Because it doesn't look like we're going to be going on cruises anytime soon. So that's our plan B. What historical time period would you most like to visit? What historical time period would you most like to visit? Well, the 70s and 80s were fun, but we lived those. Well, I was a kid in the 70s, but the 80s was pretty fun. pretty great. I think we got some great 80s music out of it. Some
pretty cool.
Fun fashions.
The music in the 70s was awesome.
Yeah, the music was pretty awesome.
60s, I would not want to go back to. 50s, maybe 50s.
Yeah, 60s were pretty. There's a lot of turmoil in the 60s. Yeah, and I was thinking about this
the other day. You know, we always think back to the 50s. You know, that was such a simple time. You know, everything was so happy-go-lucky, but was it really? I meant to ask my mom and dad that. In the 50s, did they think everything was going down the tubes? Kind of like we think, we think everything is bad now.
Yeah.
Not everything's bad, but as far as politics and a lot of evil things happening, did they think that a lot of evil things were happening in the 50s?
Yeah, they probably did.
I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
You know, like Elvis was swinging his pelvis around.
Oh, how scandalous. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, really. Yeah. I'm sure that there's always something every decade.
Yeah. But as far as going back to it, I don't think I would really want to go back. Just think about if you went back to
but to visit, not to live.
The 1600s or something like that, when the Pilgrims first came to the United States. Just think about how dirty and stinky everything would have been. You know, there was no toilets.
Yeah, hygiene would be very tough.
They didn't have blow dryers.
Right.
You know,
not just that, but like just simple drugs like Tylenol. I mean, what do you do if you have a headache? I mean, what'd you do about your teeth?
I mean, just like, brush your teeth, or if you had a toothache, or what if you wanted to drink water? You had to go down to the river, and what if upstream there was somebody doing something like in the water that was making your water foul?
Yeah, so, exactly. This is kind of a loaded question. What do you most enjoy or miss about being single? Enjoy or miss about being single? Well, gosh. I mean,
I'll go first.
Okay, you go first.
I don't miss anything about being single.
Are you serious?
Because I've always, even from the second grade, I had a girlfriend.
You did.
I always wanted to have a girlfriend.
I wonder why you always thought that.
I don't know.
Did you feel like that person would only? I mean,
I don't know. I just
need
always
a person
wanted,
to complete you.
Always wanted. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I miss being able to do what I want when I want, but I do that now. So, I don't know. I remember before we got married, I really liked living on my own. And I really liked, I have no problem with being by myself, having my own company. But man, there were times I would get extremely lonely. Like almost depressed lonely. It didn't happen very often,
Really?
But I remember a couple of times, like living in this specific apartment, I was just lonely. And I had a lot of girlfriends and stuff, but everybody's got their own life. Can't be there with them 24/7. So yeah. Do you remember ever being extremely lonely?
When I was traveling on the road, I would kind of get lonely.
Yeah.
It's like you'd work all day really hard, and you'd go back to your hotel. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, what am I going to do now?
And that's what I
TV.
I wonder about our boys, because they're both single and they're living their life, which they're having a good time. They live together, they're roommates, but I can't imagine not having. I mean, I can't imagine how lonely they must get sometimes. Because it's just human.
They have all their friends online, though.
Yeah, but it's just human nature to want that special someone.
I don't know.
Don't you think?
For me, yes, but it seems like they don't really get affected by it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. On one hand, I wonder about how they feel about that, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad.
Yeah.
That they're not tied down to any one person, because no offense to anybody out there, but there's a lot of. Being a woman, I know how women are, and a lot of women nowadays, young women, I feel like are so immature and selfish, and just not nice. And the thought of our boys ending up with someone like that breaks my heart. Yeah. I'd rather they be lonely than be stuck with someone that doesn't treat them right. Don't you agree?
Yeah. That's why so many people have dogs.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because they're unconditional love and Yeah, that's true. Okay, we probably should wrap this up. We're getting up there in time. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
I don't have anything.
An empty thought bubble on top of your head?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll say goodnight. And thanks for listening and giving us some of your time out of the day. I know time is precious. So we appreciate you listening to us and tuning in. Don't forget to watch us on YouTube and Rumble. And of course, we have our podcast on all the podcast platforms across that are available. So
yeah, you can't get away from us.
Give us a like, subscribe if you want to, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Okay, bye. That bottom frame, you can see the reflection of that light. Prominently there. I didn't realize that.
What?
That's kind of why the top one is more down. It's like right there, right there.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, look, it's like we're opposite.
Yeah, I know. You just don't notice that?
Yeah.
It's just, it's weird.
I kept wondering why I was like...
Yeah. I can't believe we're just not noticing we're opposite on the screens.